I've just driven home from Palm Cove where I did a trail run with some of my trail crew, had a beautiful breakfast. It is a stunning day here in far north Queensland, and a Smashing Pumpkins song came on. And in today's episode, you're going to learn what this means about building a reflection and a gratitude process. So I'm Suzanne Rath, and you're listening to Endures for your daily dose of endurance leadership and life lessons. Now, full disclosure, I find a lot of gratitude speakers at conferences insipid. A lot of the audiences I'm in, which as myself as a business owner, I find that it lands in this very fluffy duffy way. And what I want to share with you today is a reflection process both that you can use yourself and use with your team to actually improve your performance. Now, what does this have to do with the Smashing Pumpkins? I have been in Australia for about 14 years. In fact, a Facebook memory came up today of a Catherine Times newspaper article from 10 years ago when I had just gotten my citizenship. So I love living here. It's great. We have a great lifestyle. We love the outdoors. I love where I live. And I remember this often. And I see it come up in Facebook memories. I see it on days like today where, we have this lovely breakfast or we have these beautiful views and we need to take the time to enjoy them. And probably the first music festival that I went to in Australia was in Byron Bay. It was a festival that no longer exists, I believe, called Splendour in the Grass. I grew up with Smashing Pumpkins. As a teenager, I loved Smashing Pumpkins. And so I had never seen them play before. They were about to play this evening at Splendour in the Grass. And during the day, I went to an interview with Billy Corgan. And man, was he whingy. Just to paraphrase, he basically, in this interview, told us all how, he sees all these young rock stars and they're bouncing around like it's so much fun. And, rock and roll is really hard. And he doesn't want to have to keep playing his old songs over and over again from people. It was incredibly whingy, incredibly entitled, and honestly, I don't know who in the audience cared or could empathize with him. And it got me thinking today about how gratitude in a strategic way and as a regular part of our days, not in a fluffy way, is actually essential for high performance. So think about your teams. The easiest people that I work with on my team, and then the people who actually grow, the people who grow their careers, the people who achieve more, are the people that inherently have a process for being more present, for being more regulated, for wanting to invest in their growth, and for being grateful. Now, it's one thing to bring obviously a problem with a solution, it's one thing to flag something, it's one thing to communicate, and those are essential parts of being part of a team that works together. And this is something we need to encourage in our audiences and our organizations. But I'm sure you've all had the same people over and over and over again that it's constantly a victim thing. They're too old for this. They can't do this. They were never shown this, even though you know that it's been shown in 10 to 15 different ways. And so the question becomes, well, actually, do they not care? Are they not competent? Are they playing below the line where they're refusing to take ownership, responsibility, and accountability? What is it? And so gratitude and reflection are a choice that we all can make every single day. So in my life, some things that I do is I will look back at Facebook memories. I will look at photos in my phone. I will do a daily reflection. This podcast is really helpful. I will do a weekly reflection. I do a monthly reflection post where I go through and I find my photos for the month. It just reminds me of where I've been and where I am going. And I love to see other people doing the same. Because the difference is, we go to events with business owners or we surround ourselves with people, if they're on a complainy, below the line level, all we hear is how business is hard. They're so tired. It's so busy. Everything's so hard. I agree. Business is hard. Life is hard. We need to choose our hard. I try to consciously stop myself from getting into those complaints fests. Now, sometimes we like to have a good rant, and that's okay, right? But it's catching ourselves before we do that, and finding that point of gratitude. Because if you're in a first world country, I guarantee that every poor person on the Gaza Strip, for example, would love to be in your shoes. And while we're there complaining about how our business is hard, we also need to appreciate the things maybe that business gives us. So whether it's freedom of choice, whether it's the ability to leverage, whether it's the ability to connect to purpose. Something that I love about my businesses is being part of B1G1 Business for Good and anchoring good things that happen in the business to making good things happen in the world. Those are small reflective practices that we can all do, both in our daily lives and as part of our businesses, to just find that presence and that gratitude. And then the second thing is within the business itself. I have spoken a fair bit on the podcast about how we have values nominations, how we have, we'll go through SWOT analyses in our quarterly days. We'll highlight the wins of the week in weekly updates. We have a reflection piece for our meetings where people can kind of say, what's gone well, what could have gone better, how have I developed myself, how have I contributed to the business. So trying to encourage that teamwork. But we're constantly looking at little things that we can do to increase that just gratitude or humor, or get us out of the day-to-day kind of complaints fest of, oh, it's busy, oh, this is hard, oh, this is this. Reflection things on patients that went well, handing over pieces of feedback. We have a meme channel, so in our communications where we can send memes. And actually today, because I have to go into the clinic for something, we have previously had a photo wall up, and since we've moved clinics, we haven't had that. So I want to reinstigate that again. So thinking about little ways that you can keep that gratitude, that reflection process current and ongoing in your lives. I think people like Billy Horgan, I think any of us that, live again in a first world country where we are probably better off than the vast majority of the world, if we take the time to look back in our lives and see how far we've come. And the little things we can do, like being able to have coffee with friends, being able to maybe go out in nature, the choices that we make, the chapters that we're in, we can all find so many things to be grateful for that actually creates a sense of abundance in our brains and brings more abundance to us. But we can equally find lots of things to complain about, like any of us can. Complaining is boring. I challenge you with the end of this podcast, something that I remind myself all of the time, is to endeavor to build a life that you do things that you look back on with nostalgia, or you look back on thinking, I can't believe I did that. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow for more from Endures.